My ex and I divorced about 15 years ago and we have shared custody of our daughter. In the divorce, she wanted our house, but I fought hard against it because it's been my family home for 3 generations before I inherited it. In the end we came to a compromise that was signed off by the judge. Basically she gets to live in the house rent-free until our daughter turns 18, then I get it back. I had to pay the utilities, maintenance, and property taxes the entire time. In addition, she can't make any modification or upgrades to the house without my written permission. She's solely responsible for the cost, and the work has to be performed by an insured and legally licensed professional. I've been sending her move-out notices for months in anticipation of my daughter's 18th birthday, and recently that came to pass. The day after I showed up to the house with a contractor because I wanted some work done before I moved back in. At first she refused to let me in until I reminded her that I'm the legal owner of the house, according to our divorce agreement signed by the judge. She's no longer allowed to be there, and I'll call the police if she doesn't let me in. She got the point and opened the door. I was surprised nothing was packed and it didn't seem like she's moving at all. We were arguing as I walked through and inspected my house. She wanted extra time and I told her to be out by the end of the week or I'll have her stuff thrown out. When I walked into the living room, I was shocked into silence. The living room was expanded by a wall being torn down and having the bedroom that was once there merged into it. She turned my 4BR house into a 3BR1. I know I didn't sign off on this, and from the looks of it, the work was probably done by her BF and not a professional. I yelled at her and told her I'm going to sue her for everything she has, then I left. She went crying to our daughter and my family. Now everyone is telling me to give her another month to find a place and not to sue her. My daughter is firmly on her mother's side and thinks I'm the AH for kicking her mother out a couple of weeks before Christmas and suing her. This is why I'm here. I think I'm right and legally I am right, but my daughter's opinion of me matters to me. Am I the asshole? My wife and I recently had to move in with my mom along with our 1-year-old son. My mom has made it very clear that we are ruining her life and she hates having us here. I know in a lot of families adult children moving in is normal, but in this situation she is clearly doing us a favor and is pissed about it. I have been having a hard time setting boundaries with my mom, because her answer is if we don't like it we can leave, and to be honest that sounds fair. Don't get me wrong, I still say something when she is rude to my wife. But as for real boundaries and consequences, I just don't have any leverage. My wife has been on me lately about how I need to do more to set boundaries. One thing my mom does that my wife hates is use the word bitch in place of you in a sentence. Previously I set a boundary that if my mom called either of us a bitch we would leave and not visit for X amount of time, but now that we live here she laughs and tells me to please go. So my hands quite literally are tied. Well, tonight my mom came down to go to a work Christmas party and mother-in-law who was visiting made a comment about how her outfit was going to get her fired. My mom said, "Bitch, I'm the boss, no one can fire me." My wife gave me a look, but I just shrugged because I felt mother-in-law was rude. My wife spoke up and said that I am a coward and she is going to remind my mom of our boundary and we are sick of how she uses that word. My mom then looked at my wife and said, "Okay, I'll say cunt next time, dumb cunt." I was in shock and yelled at her to shut the fuck up and told her I hate her. She left for her party and I thought it was over. But my wife and mother-in-law both began telling me how I needed to set consequences for my mom and how it shouldn't be so easy for her to insult my wife. I responded that we lost our right to set boundaries when we moved into her house. I don't like it either, but she owns our lives, and I'm not going to make a fool of myself and come off as some choosy beggar. I said for now she really can say what she wants. Mother-in-law muttered something under her breath and my wife began to scream at me. My wife is currently not speaking to me and says I can't come in our room tonight. She called me weak and told me to crawl in bed with my mom, which honestly fucking hurt because my mom has multiple locks on her door as she doesn't trust us. This is a petty little thing, but maybe you guys can help me know if I was in the wrong. For context, I got married in November. My mother-in-law doesn't really like me, even trying to steal the spotlight at my wedding, but is still overly traditional. At Thanksgiving, I was having a really bad hair day, so I wore a black leather cap, a dressier newsboy style one, which my husband said looked great on me. The holiday was hostile, even more so than prior gatherings I'd been to, and hubby said mother-in-law said it was because I wore a hat. But I know it was just an excuse. I told mother-in-law I wouldn't come to Christmas with them, then blocked her number on Facebook. My husband is trying to keep us both happy since he doesn't like conflict. He wants me to come to one more celebration to see if maybe people are getting used to me. He's told mother-in-law she needs to be nice and treat me as part of the family since I am, and that if I feel unwelcome at Christmas like I did at Thanksgiving, that we won't attend future events and she see him much anymore. I understand why he wants me to give her one final chance and haven't had any conflict with him. Marriage is about compromise, and I get that he doesn't want to cut her off since she's his mother, but I just don't want to be involved with her unless I have to be. I wanted to see if mother-in-law was listening to him, so I asked my husband to request that I be allowed to wear the same hat to Christmas. Hubby said he thought I'd worn it since I had a bad hair day, but this time it's as a statement that they shouldn't treat me as an outsider, either because I wear hats all the time. Right now it's just a sports visor, which I'd never wear to a holiday, so it's not like I'm doing that, or they just don't like me. If they won't let me wear a hat, what else are they going to restrict about me? Let me be me or I won't come. Period. My husband agreed and relayed this to mother-in-law, and she's been asking him why he married the devil. He's growing tense with me, and I told him he'll probably have to pick a side sooner or later and that I never intended it that way. He spent last night at a friend's house because he needed to think. I feel bad because I care about him and no conflict stresses him out. I told him to text me when he was ready to talk. He hasn't yet. My friends think that my hat request was unnecessary. And maybe I strained my relationship with my husband. I think he just needed space to think because conflict stresses him out, so I gotta ask, am I the asshole for saying I won't come if I don't wear a hat? This year my family, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc., will celebrate Christmas at my house after 2 years without a party, for obvious reasons, so they are all very excited. As there are all kinds of dietary restrictions in the family, I asked ahead of time if anyone had discovered any new allergies or intolerances so that I could put together a Christmas menu that everyone would like and that there would be something for everyone to eat. Everything normal, so I've already done the shopping for the ingredients I'll need. My sister Sarah asked yesterday if she could take her brother-in-law for Christmas as his parents didn't want him there this year. Ben lives with his parents. I said yes and texted him his dietary preferences, restrictions. It turns out that Ben is an extremely picky eater who has an aversion to any type of seasoning other than salt. I was really shocked. I, and my family, love spices and seasoning, and the idea of using just salt in food appalls me, but I said I could make him pasta. Chicken and mashed potatoes with just salt, some of the very few items what he eats. Ben said it wouldn't work as there would be a table full of spices and that he can't even stand the smell and that I should just make the food with salt. I did not answer him. I called Sarah and said it wouldn't work if Ben wanted to change the whole menu and just salt. That either he ate his food, chicken, mash and pasta, and left the others alone, or he better not come. She agreed and said she would talk to her husband, Tom. Today, Tom, Ben's brother, complained in the family group that we were mean for not accommodating Ben's dietary restriction and excluding him at Christmas. Until that moment, the family didn't know what it was, and when they found out they started laughing at Tom and Ben's childish taste, and that no one wanted to eat boring food without seasoning. Tom called all of us and especially me and said he wouldn't come to Christmas with us if we excluded Ben. I lost my temper and told Tom that I wasn't going to ruin the whole family's Christmas due to his brother being a picky eater who can't stand spices. That his brother has no special condition, food restriction, and was just a spoiled adult who eats 5 foods. Tom said I was and left the group. The family agrees with me, but Sarah is sad that Tom doesn't want to go to the family Christmas. Before anyone asks, no, Ben doesn't have any restrictions, allergy, ARFID or dietary issues. He just doesn't like / has no interest / has never tried certain foods, spices. Am I in the bad here? My girlfriend has this really annoying habit where she just doesn't acknowledge me sometimes when I speak. I'll be like, "Hey, X is coming over," and just get silence in return. I ask if she heard me and she says yes and gets irritated because I should have known she was listening despite her silence. It happens daily and I've told her I'd appreciate if she just acknowledged that she heard me, even just K or something. It's super annoying to me as usually in my family we at least make some sort of sound of acknowledgement when someone says something so they know the other person was listening. Even just innocuous comments. It happened multiple times today and so finally I was like, "Look, I need you to please acknowledge me. I sometimes feel like I'm talking to an empty room and it really frustrates me having to constantly ask if you heard me because you just don't respond when I talk to you." She was not happy, got pretty upset and said she wasn't going to acknowledge every stupid little thing you say, and that I was basically an AH for asking her to do so. I feel it's basic decency to let someone know you heard them with an acknowledgement. She says I'm expecting her to over-communicate and that that's not normal. Am I the asshole? Using a throwaway just in case my cousins were to come across this. I'm 21 and have a really close family. We always did Christmas at my grandma's house, but she passed away last January and so there was a lot of discussion as to who would do the dinner. My opinion was it would be best to have one of the younger people do it, that way we can have a long-standing tradition that lasts years. There was some arguing back and forth between my aunt, but finally she said fine. I was kind of thinking my 29-year-old cousin would step up since she has a really nice house and kitchen, but then she said she would be going to Germany this year. Finally, after a month of no one volunteering, my mom said I'd really pissed my aunt off and I needed to do Christmas this year since I was so adamant about a young person doing it. I was not going to be proved wrong, so I said I would. So a couple of things. I'm a good cook, so I'm not worried about that part. But it's way more expensive than I thought it would be, especially with inflation. I also realized that my apartment is way too small, so I rented a really nice Airbnb for the day. And I had to buy all new dishes, cookware, servingware, table spread, etc. This is going to cost me about $4,500 that is going on my credit card. We are having between 20 and 25 people and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask them to pay between $250 and $300 each, so I'm not financially ruined by this. I'm a first-year teacher and I can't afford that. When I told my mom about the idea, she said don't you dare even consider it. Her argument was it was my idea, and I even argued with my aunt, all my grandma's stuff packed up and in great shape, that I didn't need get a whole new spread from Pottery Barn, and why didn't I just ask someone else to host and I could cook, and that my grandma never once asked for anything in return, so this could splinter the family. She said admit you bit off more than you could chew, take everything back, cancel the Airbnb and ask for help with hosting and cooking. I said no, I could do, but I needed money. She said I was embarrassing the hell out of her and she may not come. Your own mom threatening to not come to your Christmas is making me feel like an asshole. Am I, or would I be? I am the grandmother to 5 wonderful grandkids, 3 women and 2 men. The last of my grandkids got married last October. My husband and I usually get them a small gift, usually the cheapest thing on the registry. Then the day before the wedding, we privately gift them a check for $40,000. We prefer that they use it for a house, but we don't force them to do so. We also ask them to keep it private. We have a big extended family, and we don't want them to expect it from us. They all honored this request. When it came to our youngest granddaughter, we bought her an air fryer, that was the cheapest thing on the registry, and sent it in advance. Then she called us furious. She went off on us for being cheap and how she knew we had money, but that we did not love her enough to show it by getting her something more expensive. We were horrified by her behavior. Then she went ahead and threatened to disinvite us if we didn't get her a better gift. We discussed it, bought her a china set, but we did not give her the money that was set aside for her. We decided that she did not deserve it. Fast forward to last week, she met up with her brother, they got to talking and she found out about the cash gift that he got. She asked her cousins and found out all of them got the same gift. She called us furious for discriminating against her. We told her that it was our money, and after how she behaved, we did not want to give it to her. she started crying, said that she was just extremely stressed, and that we shouldn't have taken it to heart. We told her that we stand by our decision. Now she is refusing to attend Christmas, and her mother, our daughter-in-law, is calling us assholes. So am I the asshole? 8 years ago I got a chick I was sleeping with pregnant a few months prior to us graduating college. We had a son, and due to circumstances I don't want to get in the weeds on, my baby mother has custody of him. I still see him very often, a few times a week, and I pay child support. I don't particularly have a good relationship with my son's mother. She resents me for what happens, and honestly I'd rather have that hostility towards me than towards our son, so that's fine by me, after having my kid. She ended up having another man's baby, so she currently has my 8-year-old son, and I think a 6, give or take a year-old girl. I don't really pay the girl any mind as she's not my kid. Admittedly, I am pretty sure her father is not really that involved. Recently it was my current long-term girlfriend's birthday and she said that she wanted to take a day trip to Disney for it. I thought it would be a great opportunity to take my son as he's never been, and it's Disney and kids love that shit. I told his mother and she seemed displeased. She asked about her daughter and if I would take her. My thought was of course not. Like, why would I do that? I told her I hadn't planned on it. She said it wouldn't be right for me to take him and not take her, as she would get jealous that he got to go to Disneyland and she didn't. I told her that she's not my daughter and I don't really have an obligation to her. I also mentioned that Disney was not cheap and I wouldn't be spending money on her kid for it. She then offered to pay for half her kid's trip. I of course rejected this too, as if I'm not the kid's daddy, I'm not gonna pay. After all, she has a dad and he should be taking care of her. Also, that wouldn't solve the issue of me having to babysit while on a trip with my son and GF. So I said no to this. She told me then that she wouldn't be letting her son go simply because it's not fair, so here's where I may be the asshole. I kinda played my son against her. I told him that I wanted to take him to Disney, but his mom said no. This of course led to him being very upset and caused his mom to relent. We went to Disney, had a great time, and she was incredibly bitter when I brought him back. Am I the problem here?